Hello, and welcome to another video from me, the GingerGM, Simon Williams. And in this one, I'm going to analyse one of my games from the recent London Classic tournament. And I've just got back, I got back yesterday from this tournament, so I'm still half dead. Chess tournaments just destroy me nowadays. I think it's a combination of lots of hard chess, lots of concentrating, maybe a little bit of excessive partying as well, and generally lack of sleep because you're somewhere different, and it just completely zonks me out. Now, I didn't have a particularly great tournament yet again, but there were some interesting moments and some interesting games. And probably my most interesting game was the game I'm about to take you through now. And this was a game against the young Polish player Kamil Dragun. I'm going to call him Dragon because it sounds cool. Dragon, I don't know. But he's a very talented Polish player. He's probably only, I don't know, I'm guessing, I haven't checked his age, but probably very early 20s or late teenager years. And he's already 25, 60, something like that. So he's an incredibly strong player. Now, this was in the penultimate round, and had I won this game and the next game, I could well have finished incredibly strong, maybe even in second place in the tournament, with a big score, quite a lot of money. And this is one of the only times in chess where I've played a game, I've been plus 18. That's a big 1-0. Welcome to the 18 club. In a game of chess, plus 18. That means that you're like 18 points up, and I haven't managed to win. Now, what the hell is going on there? Well, we'll soon see. So let's go into the action, because it was very interesting, but I can't believe I didn't win this game. It was another painful experience for me. Brilliant event, by the way, London Classic. If you ever get a chance to go over there, it was a real fun time. Now, I played e4 because I was in rather an aggressive mode, surprisingly enough. I'm never in an aggressive mood, am I? No, I'm not! So he played c5, and in the morning I had a look at some ideas with this move, b4, the Wing Gambit. A relatively insane move, hence the insane laughter. And this kind of shows what kind of mood I was in for this game. But I had a look at some lines, and I thought, well, hang on a minute, this is not as bad as people actually think, and it actually has quite a sting to it. And my opponent grabbed the pawn without thinking, and now I played a3, and the idea is to gain quite a big centre, divert his pawns away from the centre and get some good attacking chances. Now, I played an idea. My opponent played the main line, striking in the centre with d5. I took on d5, queen takes d5. Now, you have to be careful of a queen e5 check. I don't want to go that insane. So we have to stop that one. Knight f3. And now if black ever takes on a3, you can either take with the bishop or with the knight. And we're going to watch this little guy on b1. This little knight on b1 has a great future. But both those moves give white quite decent compensation, in my opinion. So my opponent played e5, which is, again, what I looked at in the morning very briefly, in between feeding the squirrels in a Holland Park. Lovely little creatures they are. And now my idea behind this was to take on b4. And I saw one game of the ever-imaginative Bronstein, who was playing against an old computer. And Bronstein played the bizarre rook to a3 here. Now, I thought, well, let's improve on that and bring our knight to a3, which shares a very similar idea to another line in the Sicilian I used to play. And the point of this move is the knight is coming in to cause some mayhem mischief over on the queen's side. I've got my opponent out of his preparation. I've got a unique, exciting position on move 7. Maybe it's never been played before, which is so rare nowadays. So at least we can play a game of chess without wheeling out loads of analysis, boring prep. One of the big things of the London Classic main event that people are complaining about is that the players are wheeling out 30 moves of theory into Berlin, falling asleep during it, and then having a draw. I mean, I don't want to see crap like this, do you? Do you really want to see rubbish like that? I mean, I can't blame them because they get paid a ridiculous amount of money, but I think people should also be paid for the entertainment they bring to the game. And look, the Berlin is not entertaining. It really not. They should have their fee deducted every time they play a Berlin. Take a couple of grand off their fee. That'll teach them a lesson not to play the Berlin. Surely players should be paid for their entertainment as well and their creativity. But I enjoy playing this way anyway. So, I just like coming up with new and interesting ideas. Now here, my opponent playing knight c6. There's a couple of options. I actually think knight f6 is one of the best moves here. And the point being, if I continue with knight b5, my opponent can castle, give up his rook on a8. And after the game, I was looking at some ideas. Knight c7, now just queen c5. I gain the rook, and now my opponent turns the tables to e4. And my opponent starts his own attack here. And this looked a bit dangerous, so I wouldn't probably have grabbed the rook on a8. I don't like defending. I had something else in store. Well, actually, I didn't, because I didn't actually look at knight f6 in the morning. My preparation basically ended after knight a3. I thought, okay, let's go. Let's give it a whirl. I don't know what I'm doing, but it looks like fun, so woohoo, off we go. So, yeah, that was my prep. Now, my opponent played knight c6. Quite logical. And let's go through. So, knight b5, the whole point behind my idea. And now queen d8. And now, one of the ideas, I think, in this idea, c3, opponent has to move his bishop and d4. And to be honest, I was incredibly happy the way the opening had gone, because my opponent can't easily kick away by knight because of the pin on the a pawn. My d pawn is either threatening to go storming onwards, storming Derek the d pawn, charge, or even to take on e5, open up some lines. If my opponent, as in the game, moves his e-pawn, my bishop on c1 comes out to f4 with some great play, knight c7 ideas. So in general, I've got everything I want from the opening. Now, let me just show you this other opening I used to play against c5. I used to play the delayed wing gambit with a3. And I'm going to show you where I got this kind of idea from of knight a3. Now, I had some games, blitz games, that have gone like this, where I take on b4, knight takes b4, and now we go knight a3, d5, something like this. Here, knight c6, takes, and now knight b5, which is very similar to the game in actual fact, this kind of position. So this is where I got the idea for this idea of bring the knight in, this b4 wing gambit. Very interesting. Maybe I'm the highest rated player to have played like this even. I don't know. Probably not actually, because my rating's crap. But my opponent might be one of the highest rated players to defend against this. That's probably more likely. Anyway, I got d4 in. My opponent took on d4. And now, of course, when we're trying to play like Morphy, romantic Morphy, we do not consider recapturing pawns. Oh, no, 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 no. We only would consider going forwards. Now, the thing I like about this game, I don't think I play one backwards move until about move 40. So I play like a complete lunatic, and I keep coming at him until I get this massive position, and only then, when I play my first backwards move, do I mess the whole thing up. So it's interesting. Look at all the moves. Every move, bang, 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 forwards, forwards, forwards. Okay, there's one backwards move. I think I end up moving this knight backwards, which is a bit depressing. But in general, forwards. So now knight c7 checks a big threat, so my opponent goes king f8. Now, of course, I could recapture on d4, but would Morphy do such a thing? Now, ask yourself, what would Morphy do today? Morphy would go bishop c4, and he would develop his last piece, get ready to castle, pressurise f7, and not give a damn about his pawns. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be Morphy. That's what I was thinking. Probably a bit more like Morph from, I don't know, which is a weird plasticine figure. But anyway, the game continued. Bishop g4. I castled, so now I've got everything working. a6. Now, I took on d4. There was one very amusing line here, which I got carried away with, which I thought maybe I could get a draw with here, by playing knight c7. And after rook c8, I was going insane. And we'll come back to that soon, with the idea of going knight takes d4. I mean, this looked like a lot of fun, but I could only see a draw after something like bishop d1, and then knight e6 check. I mean, look at this madness. The point being, if my opponent takes, I go here, check. If he goes to f7, I got knight takes d8 check. I should be doing very well there. And if he goes to e8, we've got a very weird draw. Knight e8 check, knight g7 check, knight e6 check. And if he ever tries to go to d7, well, goodbye king. Bishop e6 checkmate. But of course, that's only a draw, and he probably has some other moves he can do there. But I thought that was a very entertaining and kind of mystical line there. Instead, I move my knight back to d4, and I'm only one pawn down now. But look, with my opponent's king misplaced, his rook's going to be out of the game. I have great development. I should be doing excellently here. I now took this way. Ideas of queen b3, pressurizing f7. Some ideas of the immediate bishop takes f7, which is a tactic that works here. My opponent rushes with g5. I move forwards, of course, f6. Now, queen b3 was a very interesting sacrifice here, with the idea of just getting a position like this when I'm a piece down. But I kind of thought, well, I couldn't see a clear-cut continuation. And I saw another way to give up less material, open up his king and get rid of this important bishop. I kind of felt his light square bishop is a very good defender of a lot of squares around his king, you know, all these light squares. So I thought if I can eliminate that bishop on g4, things are going to be looking better. So I went h3, trying to eliminate this bishop. And now g4. Forwards! The tactical point is, if this bishop retreats somewhere, like bishop g6, he is no longer pinning my knight, so I have the tactic, knight takes g5. And again, forwards, man, forwards! Works very well. So my opponent is forced now to capture my bishop. I take his bishop, but look at my beautiful light square bishop. My opponent's naked king. It needs to go and rehab that king, a bit like me after a chess tournament. And what on earth's happening here? Well, he went e4. Forwards! Knight e5. And now I'm threatening knight f7, so he went knight to h6. Now, I realised here a sensible move like rook e1 and rook takes e4 would leave me with a very promising position, but you know, it wasn't one of those days today. And I was in a super aggressive mood. And maybe you guys at home can guess what is my favourite pawn. Well, it's normally Harry. What is my other favourite pawn? Freddy 4, Freddy 4, here we go, charge. And of course, I couldn't resist such a move. How can you resist such a move as this? Trying to bring another piece into the attack, trying to open up the f-file, trying to generally crush my opponent while he's sleeping naked in his bed. I will like to say he wasn't actually naked at the chessboard. That'd be a little bit concerning, you know. So not as concerning as me naked probably, but still damn concerning. So my opponent now had to try to run with his king. I took on g5. And to be honest, my whole point of f4 involved a miscalculation on my part. I played king h1 very quickly, popped outside for a cigarette, thinking I was winning the game. Now, when I played f4, I'd calculated the follow variation. The threat here is rook g1, and his king needs to be able to run home to h8. And after rook f8, I whipped off on f8 very quickly, and only here did I realise that my planned idea of queen g1, followed by rook to f1, is not so strong. I kind of missed that his queen can come to h4, and actually I'm probably not doing so well here. So my planned queen g1 move was not working. So I played queen b3, pressurizing b7, trying to get my rook across. Very nice attacking position here. Probably he survived the worst because I've gone for a bit too aggressive. You know, I'm kind of like exploding all over the board here, and I probably shouldn't be doing that. I should be a little bit calmer in life. But let's see how the game continues. Well, queen e7, rook g1, queen g3. Look, every piece is attacking. Now, the whole point behind my idea is that he has to go to f6. And after queen f4, I'm simply playing against his knight on h6. This piece is an awful piece, but it's also a very necessary defensive piece, because it does defend against knight to f7 check. For example, if he played some move now like queen f8, defending the knight, well, I have the tactical blow here of going queen takes h6, And after queen h6, I now have control of the f7 square. Knight f7 is actually checkmate. So it's so important that I keep attacking this knight. I'm a pawn down. It's not so important because I'm attacking with everything. My bishop on c4 controls a beautiful diagonal. So far, so sweet. I'm playing quite good chess, actually. Bishop g7 played, and now I get my pawn back, so I'm not even material down. And I have other ideas. I've now cleared the pawn on e4 of rerouting the bishop to d3 and playing like this. Rook to e8 was played. I played bishop to d3, threatening checkmate. And here, I was amazed at my opponent's next move, which should be the critical mistake. Now, when I went into this, I thought that he had to take on e5, and I calculated the following variation. But as soon as I had played bishop d3, I got to one of those situations where you're thinking, we're going quite short of time here. I'm thinking about, because it's such a mental game, you're going to spend quite a lot of time. And I started thinking about this variation, bishop takes e5, and I missed I only just now, while he was thinking, missed an important point, which worried me quite a lot. Okay, I keep the queens on the board because my opponent's knight is so weak. He can't take on e5 because he has to keep defending h7. But rook g8, now originally I wanted to keep the rooks on the board. I mean, maybe if I take the rook off and I play something, so I've got this big e-pawn, I have some winning chances, but I wanted to keep his knight under control with rook to f1 and just go e5 and maybe try to get his king on the a1 h8 diagonal. This was my kind of thinking when I played this, but I suddenly saw that after queen g7 e6, my opponent has this move knight to f5, and this really concerned me, this move, when I can't take this knight because my queen, if it takes it, is defending g2. I'll get mated on g2. If my rook takes the knight, I get mated on g1. And my opponent has ideas knight g3 check. So this actually concerned me a little bit. My best option may have been to take on g8 and now have to play some clever move. Maybe e6, something like this, or maybe even bishop c4 first. Something along this line where I can play on, but my opponent has got over the worst, I feel, because he's swapped off a number of pieces. So I was absolutely amazed when my opponent did not take on e5, but instead played bishop to f6. This just looked like a serious error to me. And now I played two beautiful moves. I have to say, so far I've been playing very well. Can you see the first move here? Try to pause the video if you need a bit of time. Remember, forwards, forwards, forwards. So far I've only played one backwards move, and that was knight on b5 takes d4. How do we keep going forwards? How do we create threats? How do we keep the pressure on? Pause now if need be. Rook g6, kabang, is the first move. And now my opponent, I saw I was generally must be winning here. If he takes on g6, knight takes g6, winning the queen. If he takes on e5, rook takes h6, and he can't stop me taking on h7 next. Game over. So my opponent has to play only one move, knight to g8, and now I banged out my next move because I'd already calculated it should be a win. Now what is my idea here? And this does involve my favourite little guy. You know who I mean? That little friendly guy of mine. You know, he begins with H, ends with Harry, H6. And this I played very quickly. I can't believe I did not win this position. I mean, I'm completely winning here. The computer actually says force checkmate, and my opponent had under 2 minutes. I had about 10 minutes, but I suddenly completely collapsed after my opponent's next move. The point behind this little tactic is if he takes on e5, can you see the winning move here? Rook g7, a beautiful blockading move. When bishop g7 fails to the checkmate, queen takes h7 checkmate. And there's nothing else he can do because I'm going to take on h7 with checkmate. That's the end of the game. So my opponent is really completely lost here because how else does he stop rook g7? He can't. So he desperately tried queen c7. I went rook g7 thinking, oh yeah, I'm liking this. Queen c1 check. And here I started to panic like a complete loon. I mean, I had 7 minutes still. And it's such an easy win. I had a complete hallucination. Now, my first thought was, well, if I can just get my king out of the checks, clearly he's not going to be able to stop all the mate threats against his king, because I have knight... How many mates do I actually threatening here? I have knight f7, 1, rook h7, 2, and queen h7, 3. I mean, so all I needed to do here was play king g2, which I saw, queen d2 check. And now I thought, well, if I go king f3, he has queen d1 check. I couldn't see a way out of this. So I suddenly saw I had king g3. And I thought, right, well, he has no checks with his queen now, because my queen covers his checks. But I suddenly got panicky about bishop h4 check. This is what my thought process is going through. When I thought, oh, no, hang on a minute, this is dangerous. Because if I go king takes bishop, he has queen h6 check. And he takes my rook next move. But I was so stupid. I was transfixed of my queen being on this square. I totally overlooked. I just go queen takes bishop. I mean, what a class A moron I am. And he can resign here because, let's say queen e1 check, I just go king h2. He takes my queen, I have a beautiful checkmate, and that's the way the game should have ended, and that would have put me in a very good position in the last round. That would have been a very nice checkmate, beautiful win. So you can tell that I'm just missing that little bit extra in my play at the moment. How did I not see this? A song springs to mind. Soon I will have to play that song, but unbelievable that I didn't see this very, to be honest, simple idea. And I actually played in the game rook g1. Quite quickly, when the point is I thought knight f7, queen h7's mate, and I forgot he could go back with his queen, and this kind of threw me into some sort of confusion. And of course now I should go rook g7 and do the same thing again, but what was I thinking here? Love that song. Had to play it. Insane in the membrane. It's the only thing I can say. And here, well, I played knight g6 check, which is still good. But now it becomes a... I mean, I've wasted so much time. I've gone into panic mode. My whole brain has gone insane. It's gone to mush. It's literally turned to some goo, my brain, and it's gone... Bleh. And I've just lost... I mean, okay, I'm still probably winning. But even here, I forgot that my opponent could play bishop takes d4. When... my intended rook takes g6 fails or allows him petrol after queen c1 check. So I actually found a good move, h7, to put his queen away from the active square. And I went rook g3. Yes, I'm exchange up. I should still be winning, but my opponent now played queen e7, a move I really mixed. And here, I was so close to playing queen takes g6, and I should play this move, but I got worried about the checks, which are nothing. You know, I've had 30 seconds to calculate, and I should have seen that there's not enough checks here. Instead, I took the queen off, I took the pawn on g6, and this position is actually just a draw. It's just a technical draw. I'll show you how the moves went. My opponent played it very quickly and confidently, obviously having great endgame technique. Okay, I eventually won a pawn, but his b pawn gets so far advanced I have to keep my rook defending, or my king comes over here. And basically, in this position, I need both of my pieces, my king and my rook, to come near to hit my opponent's king in order to win. And that's just not possible. And after a little bit of mixing about, it became clear that I could not make any progress in this position. So I decided just to take on b2 and agree a draw like that. So still, very interesting game. Quite a painful game for me, that one. Exciting opening, the Wing Gambit. Just giving you a couple of my thoughts there. I think this is something you guys might want to try yourself, you know, if you're looking for a fun opening against the Sicilian. And this knight a3 to b5 idea, well, it got me a very good position, but then I just missed this quite simple win of move my king 2 times later on. So, spoilt it with that chaos. Well, thank you very much for watching that little video in one of my games for London Classic. I might do another game. I didn't have that many great games, unfortunately, so I'll try to bounce back at some point in my life, but it's not really happening at the moment. And you can log off now. I'm going to leave you with my little rap song made by Michael, just if you want to tune in and hear the song. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please like, please subscribe, please go to GingerGM.com. If you want to support the channel, then please buy a DVD from my website. That supports me, that keeps me in the job, because I'm certainly not making a lot of money winning chess tournaments at the moment. Okay, cheers, and I'll be back soon with more videos very shortly.
Okay, now Simon is the man with the master plan. You ain't winning against him. I hope you understand. Now he's a chess grandmaster. He'll seal your fate. If you think you might blunder, well, I guess it's just too late. Now you get some love if you're a pet, so step your game up. If you ain't good, there's no need to blame us. He put in the work. Now look how far he came up. GingerGM, you can go and put that name up. Hair like a ninja, cause he is the Dutch king. He gonna wear the crown and always do his thing. Watch the pieces fall down as he shoves Harry up the board. How many wins? You better tally up the score. He'll bring Freddie to the party. Got to celebrate the skills. It's just a match and you can't replicate. At the top spot like he floating with some helium. The one and only chess master, Simon Williams.